I didn't go back for the anniversary cake or the speeches or the photographs. I went back because my mother finally looked at me in front of 30 people who respected her and said exactly what she'd always meant. Still doing the paralegal thing? Soft laughter moved around the table. My aunt covered her smile with her napkin. My father stared at his wine glass. And across the room, near the bar where the champagne was already running low, my brother's business partner set down his glass so carefully it didn't make a sound. He didn't look at my mother. He looked at me. His face went the color of old chalk. Not because of the insult, because he recognized me. Not as my brother's sister. As the name on the indictment memo sitting in his attorney's briefcase. But you can't understand that moment until you understand what they built first. I was 17 when my parents explained how our family worked. Not in a conversation. In a series of receipts. My brother was 2 years older. Private high school, the kind with a lacrosse field and a college counselor on staff. My parents drove him to campus visits on weekends and came home talking about rankings and dorm layouts and which fraternities had the best alumni networks. I sat in the back seat and did not ask questions because I already understood that the silence was the answer. When I was a junior, I asked my mother about college. We were in the kitchen, the kind of ordinary Tuesday evening where big things get said between small tasks. She was rinsing dishes. She didn't stop. "You're smart enough," she said. "But college is expensive, and your brother still has 2 years left. We can't stretch that far." I waited. I thought there would be more. A plan, a number, a version of "we'll figure it out together." "Besides," she added, turning off the faucet, "you'll find someone good. You've always been pretty enough. That's its own kind of security." My father was in the next room. He heard everything. He said nothing. His silence was its own kind of answer. I want to be precise about what they paid for, because precision matters in my line of work, and it mattered then. My brother's 4 years of private university tuition, his apartment off campus, his car, his study abroad semester in Barcelona, his graduate school applications, his GMAT prep course, the suit he wore to his first interview. I want to be precise about what they offered me. The suggestion that I was asking for too much. I enrolled anyway. Community college, 8 miles from home, a campus that smelled like floor wax and ambition and the specific exhaustion of people working 2 jobs to be there. I registered myself, filled out my own FAFSA, walked to the financial aid office alone, and sat across from a woman who handed me a package that covered most of my first semester if I maintained a certain GPA. I maintained it. I maintained it while working dinner shifts at a restaurant where I smelled like fryer oil until midnight. I maintained it while eating the cheapest things I could find and calculating the difference between what I had and what I needed the way some people calculate sports scores, obsessively, involuntarily. I maintained it because the alternative was going back to that kitchen and asking for something that would be denied again, and I had decided I would not do that twice. My mother called once during my second semester to tell me my brother had made Dean's List. Her voice was warm in a way it never quite was with me. I told her that was great and ended the call and sat in my car in the parking lot for a while, not crying, just taking inventory. That summer, I applied for a transfer scholarship I'd found in a library database at 11 at night, a 4-year grant attached to a state university with a pre-law track. The application required 3 essays and 2 recommendations. I wrote the essays in the break room at work. My English professor and my advisor wrote the letters. I got it. I did not tell my parents. I had learned something by then that I hadn't known at 17. Certain people don't protect your good news. They question it until you can't hold it steadily anymore. So I stopped handing them things to question. Law school came 3 years later. A partial scholarship to a program in a city 3 states away. I took out loans for the rest. I signed my name on more debt than I had ever held in my hands and felt something I can only describe as clarity. It was mine. No one could reroute it. No one could redirect it or condition it or take credit for it. The obligation was entirely to myself. My parents did not come to my graduation. My mother said the drive was too far. My father said maybe next time. There was no mention of what next time would celebrate. I watched other families in the auditorium holding flowers and crying with pride, and I made a decision standing in that row in my rented gown. I was not going to build a life waiting for them to catch up to it. I clerked for a federal judge for 2 years. Then I joined the U.S. Attorney's Office, working financial crimes. It was not glamorous work. It was documents. It was patterns buried inside corporate filings and wire transfer records and amended tax returns. It was the kind of work that rewarded patience and punished the assumption that fraud announces itself loudly. It almost never does. I was good at it. I became very good at it. My brother and I spoke a few times a year. Holidays, mostly. He had started a property development company with a partner. He mentioned it once with the casualness of someone who has never had to introduce himself to a bank officer and explain why they should take a chance on him. Their name came up in industry circles. They were expanding. I did not follow his career closely. I had my own work. The case that crossed my desk 14 months ago came in through a referral from a banking regulatory unit, a mid-size property development firm with a pattern of misrepresented income projections in loan applications. Multiple lenders. Multiple properties. The kind of systemic misrepresentation that takes years to build and longer to unravel. My team began the preliminary review. 6 weeks in, I opened a corporate disclosure document and saw the name of the company, then the name of the second officer. My brother. I read the document twice. Then I sat very still for a long time. In my line of work, recusal is not a dramatic choice. It is a mandatory one. The moment a personal conflict appears, you document it and you step back. Not because you are suspected of bias, because the integrity of the case depends on no one being able to allege it later. I notified my supervisor that evening. I filed the formal separation request the next morning. I was removed from all case materials within 48 hours. Clean, procedural, complete. I did not call my brother. I was not permitted to discuss an active investigation, and beyond the legal boundary, I had no desire to. Whatever had been built was built on decisions I had no part in. Whatever would happen through channels that did not require me to deliver the news personally. 3 weeks later, the anniversary party invitation arrived. Thick cardstock, my parents' names embossed at the bottom in script, 30 years, a hotel ballroom in the suburb where I grew up. My mother had written on the back in her careful handwriting. It would mean a lot. Things have been hard lately. I stood in my kitchen holding the card for a long time. I thought about the last time I'd been in that suburb. I thought about the drive, the table, the way my mother's voice changed when she talked to my brother versus when she talked to me. I thought about what hard lately probably meant and whether I was being asked to come as a daughter or as a solution. I went anyway, because I am still working on the difference between distance and punishment, and I did not want to confuse the two. The hotel was exactly what I expected, the kind of venue that works hard to look effortless. White linens, centerpieces chosen from a catalog, a DJ playing the soft rock of my parents' early marriage. 60 guests, most of them people I recognized from holidays, people who knew the version of my family my mother had curated for public display. I arrived in a suit. Not to make a statement. Because I had come from work and did not stop home to change. Dark jacket, silk blouse, the kind of clothes that read as authority without announcing it. My mother saw me near the entrance. Her expression cycled through surprise and something close to calculation before landing on the smile she used for people she wanted to impress. "You came," she said, "and hugged me the way you hug someone you're performing warmth for." "I came," I said. My father shook my hand. He looked older. His grip was uncertain in a way I didn't remember. My brother was across the room. He saw me, raised his glass slightly, smiled the easy smile of someone who has never once doubted he belonged in the room he was standing in. His partner stood beside him, a man I recognized from the company's public filings. The name registered immediately in my memory the way relevant names always do. I moved through the party. I spoke to my aunt, to a family friend who asked what I was doing now, to a cousin who had a new baby. I ate something small from a past tray. I did nothing remarkable. I was, as I have trained myself to be, composed. My mother found me near the dessert table an hour in. "We should catch up," she said, and by the energy around her I understood there were people nearby she wanted to witness her being warm to me. "Of course," I said. She touched my arm. "What are you working on these days? Still doing the paralegal thing?" The table nearest us went quiet in that particular way that happens when everyone hears something and pretends they haven't. My father, standing 2 feet away, studied the tablecloth. My brother's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. I said, "I'm an assistant U.S. Attorney. Financial Crimes Division. My mother laughed softly. Right. I always forget the exact title. Your brother has been so busy, I can never keep track of anyone. She turned to include the group around us. She was always the serious one, nose in a book. Isn't that right? Polite agreement rippled through the people nearest us. And that is when I saw him, my brother's partner. He had been walking toward the bar when he stopped, not gradually, completely, like a man who has stepped on something in the dark and gone very still, hoping to understand what it is without looking down. He stared at me. I recognized his expression. I have seen it in conference rooms when people realize they are across the table from someone who has read every document they thought was buried. It is not fear exactly. It is the recalibration that happens when the world rearranges itself without warning. He knew my name. He had seen it on materials connected to the investigation. He had not connected it to my brother's family because there was no reason to. Now he was connecting it. My mother was still talking, something about the flower arrangements. My brother's partner set down his champagne glass with the extreme care of a man handling something delicate. He crossed the room in 10 steps. He touched my brother's shoulder. He leaned in and said something quiet and urgent. My brother's face changed. It happened slowly, the way things do when a person is processing information their body understood before their mind caught up. He looked at his partner. Then he looked at me. Something behind his eyes shifted. Some weight his easy smile had been carrying without either of us knowing it. My mother noticed the silence around me before she understood it. She turned. What's wrong? My brother's partner said, we should speak somewhere private. My mother's voice sharpened. Excuse me, we're in the middle of a family party. I understand that, he said, and his tone was the specific flatness of someone who is trying very hard to stay professional. I still think we need to speak privately. My father set down his drink. My brother looked at me. Is this? He stopped, started again. Did you know? I knew the name of the company, I said. I recused myself 6 weeks ago. The silence was total. My mother looked between us, still not fully assembled, still operating on the assumption that she controlled the room. Someone tell me what is happening. My brother's partner turned to her. His voice was steady in the way voices are when someone is choosing each word as if it costs something. Your daughter is attached to the U.S. Attorney's Office. She was on the review team for our company's case before she removed herself. My mother stared. I don't understand what that means. It means, he said quietly, there is an active federal investigation into our business. The intake of breath around us was audible. My mother's head swung toward me. Her face had not settled into anything yet. You didn't tell us. I couldn't, I said. I'm not permitted to discuss an active case. She recused herself, my brother said. His voice was careful, as if he were handling something that might break. She stepped back when she found out. My mother processed this the way she processed most things that did not fit her preferred version of events. She looked for where to place the blame that would make her most comfortable. You should have warned him, she said. That would have been a federal crime, I replied. He's your brother. That's precisely why I couldn't, my father said very quietly. She did what she was supposed to do. My mother turned on him. It was a brief, reflexive motion, the sharp pivot of someone used to redirecting conflict onto the nearest available surface. Then she turned back to me, and something in her expression calcified into the harder thing underneath her social warmth. You've always done this, she said, made everything about the rules, about being right. Even as a child you were like this, rigid. You never understood that family comes first. I looked at her steadily. Family, I said. Not as a question, as a word I was examining. Yes, she said. Family. Something you've apparently forgotten. My brother's partner had stepped back slightly. The guests nearest us had stopped pretending not to listen. I want to show you something, I said. I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket. My father stiffened, old reflexes. My mother crossed her arms. I placed a folded document on the table beside the dessert display. My brother recognized the format before I said a word. He had grown up watching my father handle paperwork at the kitchen table. What is that? My mother said. My financial aid records, I said. From my second year of community college. My mother's expression shifted toward irritation. That's ancient. My expected family contribution was listed at 0, I said. Because I filed as an independent student. I was living alone. I was not receiving any parental support. I opened the document to the second page. This is the amended record from 4 months later. My father's breathing changed. Someone filed a correction, I said, claiming me as a dependent, updating the expected family contribution upward, which reduced my aid package by $4,000 that semester. My mother said nothing. I couldn't cover the difference, I continued. I had to drop one class, which pushed back my transfer timeline by a semester. I always assumed it was a bureaucratic error. I requested the original filing 2 years ago when I was auditing a similar case for work. The correction was filed from an IP address registered to this house. My father closed his eyes. My brother said, "Mom, I don't know anything about that," my mother said, but her voice had thinned. "The signature on the amendment," I said, "is yours." The silence that followed was the kind that has weight. My mother's composure did not collapse dramatically. It contracted, drew inward, like something bracing against impact. "I don't remember signing anything like that," she said finally. "The date is June 14th, I said. 8 days after you told my father you were redirecting the dependent credit to consolidate your tax position. I found the email in the records request. You copied him." My father sat down in a chair that happened to be nearby. He did not look for it first. He simply sat as if his legs had made a decision his mind was still catching up to. "We needed the credit," my mother said. Her voice was very quiet. Something had drained out of it. "We had 2 tuitions. You had one," I said. "Mine was funded by grants I earned myself. What you took was an adjustment to my eligibility that I never recovered from that semester." My brother's partner had moved further back. This was no longer his conversation, and he understood that with the professional clarity of a man who knows when to leave a room. My brother hadn't moved. He was looking at my mother with an expression I had never seen on his face before. Not accusation. Something more disorienting than that. "You told me she dropped out because she couldn't handle it," he said. "She left," my mother said. "She left," my brother repeated. "After you took money she was counting on." "I didn't think of it like that." "How did you think of it?" My mother straightened. Her default response to being cornered has always been to expand rather than retreat. "I thought of it as managing a family that was stretched too thin. I thought of it as making sure your father and I didn't lose the house trying to pay for everyone at once." I thought. She stopped. Something flickered across her face. A rare moment of something approaching recognition. I thought she'd be fine. She was always fine. She always figured things out. "Because you left me no choice," I said. The words were not loud. They did not need to be. My father's voice came from the chair. It sounded like it was traveling a great distance. "Why didn't you tell us? When it happened, why didn't you come back and tell us?" I looked at him for a long moment. "Would you have listened?" His silence answered. "You were always busy," I said. "Or deferred to her. Or apologized for her. You came outside when I was loading my car and asked what I was offering you. You had nothing. So I stopped asking." He put his face in his hands. My mother said, "This is not the place for this. You chose the place," I said. "You said what you said in front of everyone who matters to you." "I'm just answering." "I said you were serious. I said you had your nose in a book. You asked if I was still doing the paralegal thing," I said. 8 years after I passed the bar." She had no answer for that. My brother stepped forward, not toward me, toward our mother. His voice was quiet and entirely different from the easy warmth I was used to hearing from him. "Did you know what you were doing when you filed that?" My mother looked at her son. And for the first time I could remember, I watched her try to hold his gaze and fail. "I knew it would help us," she said finally. "That's not what I asked." She smoothed the front of her dress. A small, useless gesture. "I knew it would affect her aid." My brother exhaled slowly. His partner had disappeared entirely. The guests nearest us had created a quiet radius of polite avoidance, pretending to refresh drinks, studying their phones, finding reasons to be anywhere else. "She earned those grants," my brother said. "She earned them while working nights. You're the reason she couldn't finish the semester." "She finished," my mother said, defensive now, grasping. "She transferred. She got into law school. She's standing here in a very nice suit at a party I planned. She's clearly fine. Because she made herself fine," he said. "Not because of anything we did." My mother looked at me. And there it was. Underneath the composure and the curated warmth and the lifetime of performing a version of herself she found more bearable, the recognition I had not expected to see. Not guilt, not exactly, but the look of a person who has run out of the story that usually works. "I didn't think it would matter that much," she said. It came out smaller than her usual voice. "You were always so capable," I thought. "You thought capable meant I didn't need anything," I said. She didn't answer. "Capable just meant I found a way without you," I said. "It didn't mean I didn't need help, it meant I stopped asking for it." My father had lifted his face from his hands. He looked older than the last time I'd really looked at him. Not just tonight, in general. The kind of age that isn't years but accumulated weight. "I should have asked more questions," he said. His voice was broken at the edges. "When your mother handled things, I assumed she was handling them fairly. I stopped asking questions I should have asked." "Yes," I said. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that's not enough." "I know," I said. My mother said nothing. Her version of apology has always been silence, which she offers not as remorse but as the termination of a conversation she no longer controls. I folded the document and placed it back inside my jacket. My brother looked at me across the table. Something was shifting in his face, a slow realignment of things he thought he'd understood. "You didn't come here to do this," he said. "No," I said. "I came because it's their anniversary, and because I am still trying to figure out how much distance is healthy and how much is just easier." He nodded slowly. "But she asked the question?" I said. "In front of everyone. And I'm done answering it the way I've always answered it, by saying nothing." My brother's partner reappeared at the edge of the room. He caught my brother's eye and gave a small, significant shake of his head. The kind of communication between business partners that happens below language. My brother pressed his lips together. The weight of that separate crisis settled visibly on his shoulders, the professional one, the one I could not help him with and was not going to try. "I should talk to him," my brother said. "You should," I agreed. He paused. "You really stepped back from the case." "The morning after I found out." He looked at me the way people do when they are recalculating someone they thought they knew. "You could have—" "No," I said. "I couldn't." He nodded once, then walked across the room toward his partner, carrying with him the specific kind of gravity that settles on people when they begin to understand the shape of something they've been living inside without knowing it. My mother drifted toward the bar, not dramatically, just away. My father remained in his chair. An old family friend approached him and said something gentle, and he nodded and accepted the company in the grateful, hollow way of someone who needs to stop being alone with his own thoughts. I stayed for another hour. I said polite things to the people who spoke to me. I ate a piece of anniversary cake because my aunt handed it to me, and I did not want to be rude to her specifically. When I left, I found my mother near the coat check. She was alone for a moment, standing very still in the way people do when they have stopped performing and don't know yet what to do without the performance. "I didn't mean to embarrass you," she said. "I considered this." "I know you didn't. I don't always know how to talk to you." "I know that too." She looked at me with something unresolved in her expression, something she was not sure she was entitled to ask. "Are we going to be all right?" she said. I thought about the question. The real version of it. Not whether we were going to be all right tonight, or at the next holiday, or in the performance of it, whether there was a version of us that was actually all right. "I don't know," I said. "I think that depends on whether we're honest about what happened." I explained why I know why, I said. "I'm not asking for another explanation. I'm asking for honesty about what it cost." She looked away, toward the ballroom, where the DJ had resumed playing, and guests were finding their way back to celebration the way people do, covering over cracks because there is still cake and the music hasn't stopped. "It cost a lot," she said quietly. It may have been the most honest thing she had ever said to me. "Yes," I said. "It did." I put on my coat. She did not move to hug me. I did not move to hug her. We stood in the particular stillness of two people who share too much history to be strangers, and not enough honesty to be close. "Drive safe," she said. "You too," I said. And I walked out through the lobby and into the cold, which was direct and clear and required nothing from me. My brother called 2 days later. We talked for an hour, which was longer than we had spoken in years combined. He asked questions I answered as carefully as I could without crossing any lines I had already drawn. He told me things about growing up in our house that I hadn't known because we had been shaped so differently by the same rooms. He said he was sorry, not for what our parents had done, but for not having seen it. I told him those weren't the same thing, but I appreciated the distinction he was trying to make. We are not close. We are becoming something. It does not have a name yet. My father writes to me now. Actual letters. He found a stationery set and he uses it. The letters are about ordinary things. The weather, a book he read, a bird that keeps landing in their yard. The word sorry appears between the lines, woven into the ordinary things, the way people hide the things that are hardest to say directly. I read every letter. I don't always write back, but I read them. The investigation proceeded through its proper channels without me. I don't know the outcome. I'm not permitted to know, and I have accepted that some consequences arrive in forms I don't get to witness. That is what it means to do the job cleanly. My mother sent a card for my birthday. It was a nice card. She wrote inside it, "Proud of you." I should have said it more. 8 words that would have changed years if they'd arrived sooner. I put the card in a drawer, not to forget it, to decide what to do with it slowly, which is the only honest pace I have for that kind of thing. People sometimes ask whether I regret going back. Whether the truth was worth the wreckage of a party that was supposed to celebrate 30 years of something. I don't think of it as wreckage. Wreckage is what's left when something breaks suddenly. This was something else. The slow settling of a structure that had never been built on level ground. I did not go back to punish them. I went back because my mother called and said things were hard, and I am still, after everything, someone who shows up. I went back because I needed to know whether I could sit at their table and tell the truth about who I became and what it cost me to become it. Whether I could be in the room without folding myself down to fit the version of me they had always been more comfortable with. The answer is yes. I can be in the room. I can take up the space my work and my life have earned. I can answer a dismissive question with the accurate answer without apology. Capability was never the thing they gave me. They withheld resources and called it a lesson. But somewhere between the night shifts and the loan documents and the years of making something from nothing, I learned a version of independence that had nothing to do with their lesson and everything to do with my own refusal to stop. They tried to give me scarcity. I built fluency in it instead. And fluency, it turns out, is transferable. If this story landed somewhere in you, sit with that for a moment. Think about the quiet ways favoritism shapes a family. How it teaches different children different truths about their own worth. How the cost of that doesn't announce itself loudly but accumulates. Think about what it means to show up as you actually are, not the version that makes other people comfortable. If stories like this matter to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you'd like more, we'll be here.